everyone, welcome to my next instalment of Shelf Isolation. We've got a special guest speaker today. Well, she won't be doing very much speaking, so this is my cat Jane, and she will be hopefully with us for the duration of Shelf Isolation. So for this Shelf Isolation, I really want to talk to you about The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. So another quite nice short one to get through. You know, you'll probably get through this in about a week or so. And I picked it this week because it does have some quite good links to Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, which I spoke about last time. So, you know, the main ones are female relationships, looking at things from a female perspective, how women are quite repressed in a lot of ways. So yeah, it would be quite a nice one to link with Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. Some differences as well, so difference in time period. So Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, I think it's set in the 80s. This is set in the 50s. So obviously that kind of oppression is a little bit different, but nevertheless still there. This is set in America. Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, set in Manchester. So again, difference in where it's set as well, but some really good links. So another reason I really like this book is it's an excellent book if you've ever felt like you are out of place. And I'm sure that's a feeling that we've all felt before. So it's about this young girl called Esther who has just finished university or college, as they say in America, and she gets an internship in New York. So she's never really travelled from her hometown before. So, you know, going to New York was really quite an alien thing for her. And when she's there, she's kind of placed with all these girls in this girls' hotel. And, you know, everyone is so buzzing and giggly and, you know, excited to be there. And all these girls are getting on really, really well together. But she just feels like she doesn't fit in. So she has friends, but she doesn't quite gel with them in the way that she wants to. And there's a part where she's quite early on in the book where she's talking about ordering a drink in a bar, and she says, like, I never know what to order, and she orders herself a glass of straight vodka, which is obviously going to be disgusting, but she drinks it anyway because she feels too awkward to not drink it. So yeah, she always feels like she's quite out of place, but we also get the sense that she's quite a strong character too. So there's another part where she's in New York, and, you know, all these girls are working as like interns for this women's magazine, and the magazine puts on like a ladies' day lunch for them, and the girl next to her doesn't show up. So what she does is she slyly places a huge plate of caviar next to her and just eats the whole plate because she has no one to share it with, and she knows that the dish is too far away for the person opposite her to ask for this dish of caviar. So she basically just polishes off a whole dish of caviar, which is definitely not something that I would actually do, but definitely something I felt like doing before with food. So yeah, we get the sense that, like, even though she feels out of place, actually she's quite strong in a lot of ways. So Esther, the main character, is definitely a character who suffers from what we'd call imposter syndrome. So she always kind of feels like she's not quite good enough. But we can kind of see why she feels like that, because, you know, she has this boyfriend called Buddy Willard who is an absolute idiot, and he's always quite like belittling her in certain ways. So, you know, she really wants to be a poet, but he says, like, oh, poems are like dust, like they're so like vapid and silly. And then he goes on to write a poem of his own when he becomes quite ill a bit later on. And she finds him really quite hypocritical, but then she finds it very difficult to kind of end the relationship. She's still quite reliant on him. But then on the other hand, she's portrayed to be quite strong in a lot of ways. So in some respects, so like her mother really wants her to learn shorthand so she can learn shorthand for like businessmen and type things out for them. And that'd be a really good way for her to get a husband. But, you know, the way that she shows her strength is by saying that, actually, no, I don't want to do that. I want a different job. But the point is that she just doesn't know really what job she wants to do. I mean, she kind of wants to be a poet, but then she kind of wants to be a writer too. But one thing's for certain with Esther is she does not want to get married. She's very, very clear in the fact that she doesn't want to get married. So it's quite a depressing book in a lot of ways. So I'm gonna really try hard not to give away too much of the ending. But her mental health while she's in New York totally spirals, particularly when she feels like she's not gelling with the other girls. And it really reaches a peak when she's she's in New York for the year. In the summer, she wants to get a job at like another internship, and she's unable to do that, so she ends up having to go and live at home with her mum. And that's where her mental health really, really quite deteriorates, and she has to go into a psychiatric hospital. And the hospital is described as being really quite cold and clinical, possibly a comment on how mental health was treated at the time, and you know how at the time. You know, we get the sense that men would not have been treated in quite the same way. As I said before, really good for female relationships. Really good for looking at, you know, the role of women in the 1950s. You know, a lot of the female characters who represent Esther's hometown, so Buddy Willard's mum and her own mother, they are very typical. So think about someone like her name has escaped me, Emily Tallis. Think about Emily Tallis for these kinds of women. But then we're also presented with these really strong women, so like a woman that she meets in the psychiatric hospital, Joan, her boss with her internship, CJ, really, really quite strong women who she doesn't particularly like Joan or CJ very much, but she respects them quite a lot. So she has that kind of kinship with them, even though she feels quite put out by them, if you like. What else have I got to say? Another thing that's represented in the book is electroshock therapy. So I don't know how much of you know about electroshock therapy, but if you were mentally ill in the 1950s, they would basically electrocute you. Not till you died, but to kind of give your brain a shock, and that was kind of a way of curing you of your mental illness. So, you know, that's another thing that's represented where she's going to hospital, and like really represents like how little understanding there was of mental illness. And Sylvia Plath is someone who suffered with mental illness herself. She actually committed suicide by putting her head in the oven. So when I first heard this, I thought it was just a really strange way to commit suicide, because surely an oven would be really hot. Like, how would you be able to stand to put your head in an oven? But then I realised it was a gas oven and she'd suffocated herself. Totally grim. Don't need to include that in an essay, just for kind of reference. So what I want to do is I want to end on a quotation, and this quotation is from a little bit quite early on in the book, chapter 7. And there's an image that comes up quite a lot, and that's of a fig tree. It's something that came up in a story from her childhood. And she keeps coming back to this image of this fig tree. And where is it? Here we go. And in this bit, she's kind of thinking more about this fig tree, and she's saying like, all these figs represent things I want to do, but I can't decide actually which one to pick. So she says one fig was a husband and a happy home and children, and another fig was a famous poet, and another fig was a brilliant professor, and another fig was E.G., play on CJ, the amazing editor, and another fig was Europe and Africa and South America, and another fig was Constantine and Socrates and Attila and a pack of other lovers with queer names and offbeat professions, and another fig was an Olympic lady crew champion, and beyond above these figs were so many more figs I couldn't quite make out. So she imagines herself sat under this fig tree with all these figs representing things that she could do. And she can't decide which one to pick, so she's kind of sat under this fig tree, and the figs then just go bad and die, sort of representing how if she doesn't pick something to do, all these chances and opportunities will just sort of wither and die and cease to exist anymore, because she'll be too old or unable to do them. So that was my shelf isolation on the bell jar. Please get in touch if you've got any questions or you want to discuss it further. Hope you've enjoyed listening.